and Europe. He also doubles as an estate surveyor, a licensed estate surveyor and valuer. The number one aviation freak in Nigeria, Mr. Goddy.
Hi, good morning, Joe. How was your weekend? Oh yeah, we're so glad. We're so glad. By the way, let me just welcome my viewers. Please welcome to the program and good morning all. Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, what we're looking at today is Aviation Safety Part 7 has been on for 7 consecutive weeks, dealing mainly on aviation safety, things that, of course, can enhance smooth, what do you call it now, a movement of an aircraft from point A to point B, and things that can also hinder or that smooth movement. And of course, we talked about so many things. Everyone, about 70% of the error is human error, and all we need to do is to ensure that all of that is prevented. That is what we'll be looking at today, part 7 of it, and this is where, of course, we'll end the aviation safety disco that has been on for 7 consecutive weeks. Mr. Ike.
Right, Joe. Part 7, of course, we're going to be concluding what we've been running with for the past 7 weeks.
7 weeks. So now, but for want of time, let's start with clip 1. Let's hit the ball rolling.
Right. Clip 1, please. Here we go, Joe. We are continuing with what we didn't quite finish, last week on deliberate aircrew action. So that continues, and we want to deal with the German wings flight 9525. Deliberate aircrew action cannot be concluded without a mention of the without a mention of the recent most horrific incident involving German wings flight 9225 on March 24th, 2015. The Airbus A320 211 aircraft crashed northwest of Nice in French Alps after a constant descent that began 1 minute after the last routine contact with air traffic control. The crash, which was determined to have been caused by the co-pilot André Lubitz, killed all 144 passengers and 6 crew on board. Lubitz, who was declared unfit to work by his doctor, concealed that fact of mental health from his employers and reported for duty. Joe, take note of that, because these are security issues that we need to be mindful of. During the flight, he locked out his captain from the cockpit and deliberately sent the aircraft crashing in the French Alps. Let's move on to clip 2. Here we go, Joe. As a result of that incident, most countries reviewed their laws, making it mandatory that 2 pilots must be in the cockpit at all times in flight. Take note of that, Joe. The aircraft, registered as DAIPX, was traveling from Barcelona Prat Airport, Barcelona, Spain, to Düsseldorf Airport in Düsseldorf, Germany. Now, if you take a look, that is the airplane, the German wing airplane, and of course, on your right is a map showing you, the movement and where he made the choice to ditch the aircraft.
Now, the issue is that he is ill.
Yeah, he was ill.
Of course, he was told that he is unfit to fly. Maybe because of the welfare package he decided to consider.
No, I think the issue was actually the law in Germany. The law does not allow anyone to pry into people's health records. If you were in an environment where the doctor could easily, give information, about the pilot, he could have called up the airline to say, hey,
because that's actually my concern.
That's correct.
Because I know that most organizations have certain health facilities that their employees go to, and the outcome at times is also sent to the organization. I don't know why this one is different. And
I just informed you, Joe, that is law in Germany.
No,
it's up to them right now. Haven't seen what that kind of law has caused to make it appropriate
to amend it.
That's correct. That's correct. So click 3, please. Yes, aviation safety, we are looking at military action, and this is going to go through quite a couple of clips to see how military action has created safety issues in aviation, and there are a lot of lessons therein. As we read through, you will see some of the mistakes made and how some planes were shot down, filled with innocent passengers. And of course, some of the risks that some, powerful governments around the world take also, sometimes swiftly overflying an area that has been declared a no-fly area, and those kind of things, and then testing the will of other nations whether they are really serious about, blocking some airspace and stuff, and in the process sacrificing lives. So let's look at
quickly. Let's look at
military action. Records show that passenger planes have been attacked militarily, both in peacetime and war. Some examples include: 1, LR Flight 402 was shot down by Bulgaria in 1955, way back in 55. Then number 2, Libyan Arab Airline Flight 114 was shot down by Israel in 1973. Now, Korean Airlines Flight 007 was shot down by the Soviet Union in 1983. Iran Air Flight 655 was shot down by United States of America in 1988. During an exercise in 2001, the Ukrainian Air Force accidentally shot down Siberia Airlines Flight 1812. Malaysia Airlines Flight 17 was shot down on 17th July 2014. Up until this day, it is still unclear who shot the plane down as it overflew a war zone in eastern Ukraine. Clip 4, please. Here we go. We are continuing with military action. And let's start from the number 1 that we mentioned on the list, which is the LR Flight 402. This was an international passenger flight from London to Tel Aviv. Joe, as I read through, just take a look at those airplanes.
No. Go on.
Those are the old ones that were used in the 50s and 60s. So the photo on the right is the one that shot it down, and the plane that was shot down is the photo on the left.
On the left.
That's correct. Okay. This was an international passenger flight from London to Tel Aviv via Vienna and Istanbul, Turkey. Registered as 4X AKC and operated by Lockheed Constellation, the plane strayed into Bulgarian airspace and was shot down by 2 Bulgarian MiG-15 war jets. That's what MiG-15 used to look like in the 50s. It crashed near Petrich, Bulgaria, killing all 58 on board. Let's move to 5 very quickly.
And reasons
we're
not giving why the plane was shot down.
Well, it strayed into the airspace, and of course 2 MiG-15 war jets were scrambled at it, and then of course they claimed that they sent many signals to the pilot, and he ignored the signals, warning shots, and informing him to follow so that they could take him to where they would land and find out why he violated the airspace. Okay. Yeah, but when the pilot wasn't budging, they had an order to shoot it down.
So the blame should be on the pilot.
Well, these are all the lessons therein, because it can happen to anyone, anywhere in the world. As a matter of fact, Joe, I was once returning, I think that was from Hong Kong and heading towards, and then at a point, I noticed 2 war jets, flying on both sides, because the person sitting on the other, was claiming that he was seeing another one. But Joe, I was scared. I was really, really scared. But those were friendly ones, and not ones that came at us because of violations.
Right.
And then after a while, they all, went away. So just like you will see in clip 5. That we're about to deal with, that plane was one they shot down. Those were the war jets that went after it, and when landed into bay, they shot it down. Yeah. So this was a scheduled passengers international. We're dealing with Libyan Arab Airline flight 114. This was a scheduled passenger international flight operated with a Boeing 727-224 aircraft flying Tripoli, Benghazi, Cairo, registered as 5ADAH. The plane strayed into Israeli airspace due to suspected navigational equipment failure. Because the story had it that the pilots did not willfully, get into the Israeli airspace. Somehow, they were misled by
error.
That's right, instrument error or bad weather, and was shot down by 2 Israeli F-4 Phantom, fighter jets on 21st February 1973. Killing 108 out of 113 on board. 5 persons, including the co-pilot, survived the crash. So that's the plane. That those are the war jets that were scrambled at it, and of course the claim was that the pilot initially pretended that he was obeying orders, brought out his landing wheels, put on his flaps in readiness to follow them to where they wanted him to touch down.
Okay, now let's look at clip 6 quickly, because
clip 6, please. Clip 6.
Very not on our side.
Yeah. Here we go. Korean Airlines Flight 007. Formerly known as CAR 007, the Korean Airlines Flight 007 was a scheduled flight from New York City, USA to Seoul in South Korea via Anchorage, Alaska. The Boeing 747-230B, registered as HL 7442, with 269 passengers on board, was en route from Anchorage to Seoul. For some inexplicable and strange reasons, it deviated from its originally planned route and flew through Soviet-prohibited airspace. Just about the same time, a USA area reconnaissance mission was going on. You remember during the Cold War between the Soviet Union and America, and the mutual suspicion and stuff. Yeah, the Soviet Air Defense Forces treated it as an intruding U.S. spy plane, and therefore shot it down with air-to-air missiles, killing all on board. Yes, Joe, this is true history. It happened. Clip 7, please. Very sad, isn't it? Now, clip 7 will show us the plane in question, the dangerous air-to-air missile that did the horrible job.
So which one is the one
that middle? The one in the middle, on the left photograph.
Yes.
The plane in the middle was one that was involved in that incident. You can see one plane, and there's one in the middle, and the next one, the one in the middle, that was the airplane. Before it departed. And then, of course, that the right picture is showing you the sidewinder. horrible air-to-air missile that that brought down.
Okay, that's the missile.
That's correct. That's correct. It's usually called in military circles sidewinders, in the sense that they are stuck to the side of both sides of the wings. And then,
okay, now let's look at clip 8. But at the end, we are going to look at how can these issues be avoided.
Yes, if we run through very quickly, then we'll be done in a minute, and then we can discuss all those. Military action continues in clip 8. Iran Air Flight 655. This was a scheduled passenger flight from Tehran to Dubai on 3rd July 1988. The plane was shot down by the United States Navy guided missile cruiser USS Vincennes under the command of William C. Rogers III. The Airbus A300 B2203 was destroyed by SM-2MR surface-to-air missiles fired from Vincennes, killing all 290 people on board. That is the plane on your left for the photograph on the and then if you look at that photograph on the right, those are the young men inside the warship, the cruiser, guided missile cruiser known as USS Vincennes. So it's a war department where they engage both land, sea, and air, targets. And very young boys, dealing with that. So that's what you have right in that shape. I showed you the people who select the targets and who monitor different areas inside water, above. Wherever violation is going on, or wherever a target is, they find it, lock on it, and then select the appropriate missile and
then bring it down
and take it to it. Different kinds of missiles: air to air, surface to air, air to water, anything. Amazing, isn't it? Yeah. So let's go to clip 9, please. Clip 9. Military action will continue in clip 9. Siberia Airlines Flight 1812. This was a commercial flight shot down by the Ukrainian Air Force over the Black Sea on the 4th of October 2001, while it traveled from Tel Aviv, Israel to Novosibirsk, Russia. The Soviet-made Tupolev Tu-154M, registered as RA-85693, which had about 66 passengers and 12 crew members, mostly Israelis visiting family members in Russia, was mistakenly shot down by a misguided S-200 missile fired by the Ukrainian armed forces during joint Ukrainian-Russian military exercises. All passengers and crew on board lost their lives. Now, that's the plane on the photograph on the left, and what you're seeing on the right is actually Vincennes. I thought I should just share that photograph when he released the missile that brought down that Iran Air. Those are the two missiles leaving the ship, and heading to the air.
Targeting the
airplane. Yes. One of them hit home and destroyed the aircraft, and of course killed everybody.
It's just so funny that it happened despite the speed of the airplane.
Oh, those are much more faster than the plane. Where is the plane running to? These things do almost 17,000 miles an hour. Oh yes. So where you run into? And when lock on you,
it's more than a turboprop engine.
And if it's heat-seeking and it locks on you, no matter what you do, you dive down, it follows you. You dive up, it follows you. Wherever you go, it's after you until it hits home.
Really?
Yeah. That's technology for you. So clip 10, please.
Clip 10.
Clip 10. Here we go. Malaysia Airlines Flight 17, the recent one. I'm sure your memory still recalls that incident. Very sad one. This was a scheduled passenger flight from Amsterdam to Kuala Lumpur, which was shut down on 17 July 2014 while flying over eastern Ukraine, killing all 283 on board. The Boeing 777-200ER, registered as 9M-MRD, was down with a Buk surface-to-air missile launched from a pro-Russian separatist-controlled territory in Ukraine during the war in Donbass. You remember the Ukraine crisis. The plane in question is the one you're looking at, on the left. And of course, when bodies were returning to Malaysia, and those were the heads that were taking the bodies of the victims, back home. They had just left the airport and were heading into the city. That's the photograph on the right. Very sad. But all these souls all rest in peace. Right. Now, clip 11. We'll be looking at another issue that has an impact on safety, aviation, and that is airport design. Airport design. Aviation safety cannot be concluded. If my viewers would just take a look at clip 11, it would be nice. Very well. Aviation safety cannot be concluded without mentioning the role of airport design and location in ensuring safety. New international safety rules require that airports should be sited in areas that are not congested. Airport locations should be spacious, so much that runway safety area of 500 feet, about 150 meters to each side, should be available. And then 1,000 feet, that's 300 meters beyond the end of the runway, must be available to guarantee safety should the runway be overshot during landing. The buffer space must be free of obstacles. That's if we're doing any more than airports today. However, other airports that do not have the required space to meet this standard must install an engineered materials arrestor systems known as EMAS, all right, made of lightweight crushable concrete that absorb the energy of the aircraft to bring it to a rapid stop. And finally, clip 12. We'll look at emergency.
Before you go to that clip 12, this 11 is,
yes.
I have a bit of interest in it.
That's right.
Now, you talk about space for, an average airport. But I have seen, for example, in Lagos, you discover that the houses are very close to the airport.
That's why those are airports put in place at a time that the world hadn't come to terms with the need to have those buffer space and all those side space available to ensure that we maintain the best of safety in the airport. But there's a provision.
It's not late to have those people.
That's why EMAS
and then evacuate.
Yeah, that's why EMAS should be installed. It's said to be crushable. Concrete, as a buffer that will have to be put at the end of the runway, so that if for any reason an airplane is overshooting, that will absorb the energy from the airplane, and of course reduce drastically losses of life and damage, and maybe the airplane continuing to move and causing more mayhem, ahead of it, with all the structure and houses that are already built in place. So for those kind of other airports, that the EMAS is a solution.
It's required.
That's why it's required.
To enhance safety.
Yeah, so you journalists will have to talk to the Ministry of Aviation and find out if the airports we have that have no space to create buffer areas.
I think it's just one that has that issue.
Well, it can be sure.
That of Lagos.
Yeah.
I know that of Kano is clean, space.
Wonderful.
Wonderful. Of course, we're in Abuja. But that of Lagos, as soon as you are landing, you just as if we are going to land on
top of houses. All right, that's fine. Well, I hope somebody somewhere is listening. This is all about improving whatever we have on the ground so that we can do better, isn't it? Right. Clip 12, please. Let's just round off quickly with clip 12. emergency aircraft evacuations. According to the USA National Transportation Safety Board, NTSB, emergency evacuations happen in the USA once every 11 days. Amazing. In some cases, when there is fire, evacuations pose a lot of challenges due to passengers' knowledge of the use of evacuation slides. It is therefore important that intensive training of crew and media explanations of evacuation procedures must be shown to the flying public to help them learn the art of safe evacuations during emergencies. Joe, you journalists have a job here as well. You need to talk to, you can come back to us now. We're done with the clips and done with aviation safety. There is nothing to add, Joe, except and until something new happens anywhere in the world and the aviation community comes to terms with, hey, we have something new, we have a new style of compromising safety in aviation, then we'll begin to look at what's a possible solution. But at the moment, parts 1 to 7 of the
tells us
all we everything
known about aviation safety. We know that the pilot must always be in the right mind. Must avoid
all
alcohol,
the time.
and there must be some checks like
breathalyzer. That's correct.
To ensure that the pilot has a normal alcohol in his system to fly. That's for those who want to take alcohol. But if it's more than that, that pilot should be. And we know that the work time is also another issue.
That's correct. I'm so impressed.
And keep flying, and
they get fatigued.
They get fatigued, and that may have issue with safety.
That's correct.
And with what you have just talked about now, the military action.
That's right.
And you have also given us
if you are making a mistake,
the series of safety posed by military, of various nations.
Pilots have got to be very careful.
Now the thing is, when it happened and the flying plane, that of course veered into a country's airspace unknowingly, and innocently, and as a result of that, the plane is brought down, what is the remedy for that?
Well, Joe, normally, from all the cases I have read, somehow the pilots were recalcitrant and stubborn. I think if it's really a mistake and you stray into a no-fly zone or into a territory that you didn't have authority to overfly, you should be able to tell those that have been, especially the warjets that have been scrambled at you, because they first of all come on both sides and make even visual contact with the cockpit and ask you, what's this you're doing? And then they reach you on radio as well. Okay. You tune to the appropriate military frequency. The pilots are trained to know all those frequencies. You can always move from one frequency to the other,
and those frequencies have no issues with the plane.
No. It's the radio system is there and it has all the frequencies. You just tune to the appropriate frequency and you pick up, who wants to talk to you, and then if you are instructed to follow. For goodness sake, if it was a genuine mistake, follow them. For the sake of the lights you're carrying, land and explain that you don't know why you're here. That's probably a technical fault or some misinformation by your instrument, and it's as simple as that. But Joe, for the big powers, sometimes it's alleged. I haven't known any investigation that came out with 100% proof that also happened. But it's always been alleged that sometimes these powerful nations use those to spy. Maybe they have some equipment attached somewhere and then get a pilot that I don't know for what reason he wants to risk his life and other people's lives, and and then make a deliberate mistake to overfly an installation and get some information for whoever sent him at the expense of human lives.
It's suicidal.
Yeah. So that's why sometimes when they are asked to follow, in order for a search to be made to find out
what they are carrying, because the search may not just be, hey, where are you going to?
No.
Even
inspection.
Even you give them whatever excuse that you may find at that moment, they still have to go in and
carry out thorough inspection and investigation of the airplane to find out if it has some installations in it, and then if they do, that pilot may spend the rest of his life in jail. It depends on the law operating in the country that he violated. In some countries, they would kill you. You don't try that with China. If you do, you're a dead man.
Okay, that is what we have on this segment. We have been looking at aviation safety. It ran for 7 consecutive weeks. I'm sure that all that you need to know about aviation safety has all been captured.
And next week, we'll start the brand new series. Environmental impact of aviation. Exciting, isn't it?
Right. So you can't afford to miss that environmental impact of aviation. It's coming up next week, Monday, same time, here on our breakfast show. Thank you for coming.
Oh, thank you very much. My viewers, I love you all.
Yeah. Now, when we'll take a quick break. When we come back, it shall be time to play you the